So hello, anybody coming along or gonna check this out? As you can tell by the title, you know, dialogue about race won't change racism. You know, and ironically, something I was looking at YouTube and they was having a clip of Oprah, who people are calling a fraud now because she want to talk about racial issues. And one of the comments that I think Acho or her made was, we need to have dialogue will change. One of the first steps is dialogue, and I hear it a lot. I've heard it before them, so it's not like they should get blamed for that or anything. But people believe, oh well, if we talk about race and racial issues and we talk about race in this country, it'll change things. um I'm not of that belief, and I'm just gonna lay out why. you know what's popping with you, Edward? What's up, Uncle? First reason is because people are proud of racism. I don't. People are acting as though people's minds and hearts are going to change. People love race to be racist. People love racism. It's not. It's not just if you have a conversation with somebody, you're going to say something and they go, "I never saw it that way." Look, everybody who lives in America knows what racism is front and back, but people are proud of it. When people walk around with the Confederate flag thing, that was being proud to be racist. I know they'll say something different, but this is my heritage. We proud of being slave owners. Torturing people. It's not like and people act like the Union wasn't in the slavery they were, but using that as an example, people are proud of racism. So talking to somebody about them being racist doesn't mean that that's going to change them not enjoying it and being proud of it. What's popping, Mel? You know, so this is what it is. When the people who do the we first had the thing Black Lives Matter as a statement, people saying, "Oh, Blue Lives Matter and All Lives Matter." They're proud to be like that. I was in the gym yesterday, and a guy got a face mask, a Redskins face mask, because anybody knows recently, because of all the racial tension in the country, the Redskins formerly the Washington Redskins were forced to change their name to the Washington Football Team, which I'm like, okay. But when I saw the guy wearing a mask, for me, it was like, I've seen this guy plenty of times, and doesn't strike me as a football fan. He never wore football apparel before, right? But all of a sudden, it's the Redskins, and it's like, come on, man. See, would you? People want to assume if I talk to a person, or if you black and you talk to a person like that, it'll change the way they view things. People like offending people. When somebody is racist, they're the king of trolls. They like offending people who are not in their race. So having a conversation with somebody is just feeding a troll. So will you think these people are not going to be proud of this? There are people who have memorabilia in their houses from the Confederacy or from slavery, or memorabilia from how can I put this, lynchings, of Nazi memorabilia, which I don't get why the Nazi and the black thing go together per se. I get, the Nazis would treated black soldiers crazy when they caught them. I get all that part. But people are proud of this stuff. Now, it's funny because people like to take it out in public, and they have these pseudo things. When you see people riding around with flags on their car, that's, a lot of times you see the flag, it's kind of like a poke at somebody else. It's not really being patriotic as more of it's being, I'm better than you. What's up, Punisher? You know, Man, I'm not worried about that. You know, but when I grew up in Chicago, but this being proud of it is part of the issue because nobody ever, if you want to have dialogue, nobody ever asks the question, you really like being a racist? You really like, you really like benefiting off of racism? You really like your position, to live in a society that's racist because you get advantages? Like you really like living like this? Are you proud of that this, if you're say white in America, are you proud that this gets passed down from generation to generation to generation and everybody in the family and in the country knows, well, long as I got this quote unquote skin in America, I got an advantage. Like people for some odd reason act as though, it's not baked into the cake, as BGS would say. So, which brings me to the second point of this. Dialogue won't dialogue about race won't change racism because racism is rewarded. That's what it is. How you doing, Gigi? Racism is rewarded in America. No matter, I've seen so many articles, I've seen so many stories, I've seen so many things that people are comfortable with. Like they had the LAPD article recently about the executioners, which it's a group, it's quote unquote a gang in the police department comprised of everybody who's not black, because that's the only if you're in the police department in the LAPD in this particular faction, you can't be black to be in the quote unquote executions. What they do is they kill folks, thus the term executioners. What's up, Julian? So they kill folks. So, and guess what? They keep their jobs from killing folks. They get tattooed just like gangs do. They got they were doing things. What's going on, Paul? Just like gangs do to say, I killed somebody. Not in the line of duty. I mean, technically it's in the line of duty because they were police officers, but they were murderers. So guess what? I get to kill somebody, get to have my brotherhood, and get to go home at night as a murderer. All because of my hatred for those people. You get rewarded for that. I was looking at an article recently of a kid playing college football. He was in favor of college athletes getting paid to play college sports. And basically the coach cut him and sent him home. Cut him for that. I can't believe you believe in this. Now, anybody who knows anything about college sports, oh man, the chin was popping. Anything who knows about college sports, it's only two sports in college that generate money like that. It's football and basketball, which are both predominantly, black as far as the athletes. And who makes the most money off of that? First and foremost, the coaches. Now, if it was baseball or soccer or hockey or lacrosse, what's up, Stephen? Or swimming, so on and so forth, volleyball, people will say, if they send a kid home for saying, I would like to be paid for this, be an issue. When they'd be like, you sent the kid home because they wanted to be paid for it. You get paid for them playing for you. What are you talking about? But acting like this is a reward. It's a reward system in a sense. I thought about, the how can I say this? Even on social media, you have the conservative and going on for a long time. And what you normally see is if something happens to somebody black that wasn't right, you're going to have somebody who's not black. Man, the champ, thank you, fam. You're going to have somebody who's not black or black pop up and say, why it was right, even if it's dead wrong, even if it's dead to rights. And when they're dead to rights, they got to figure out a way to be wrong, so they'll interject something that didn't happen when these things are clear as day, on camera, filmed, recorded, audio, all kinds of stuff. Then you got to throw some sauce on it, and that way you'll get people. You can get a lot of views like that. You can get a lot of donations like that. You can get a lot of you can wind up being having a wing of a political party like that. That brother was popping. So it's gonna get rewarded. You'll be on television. You'll be on. You can get a bigger platform. You can write books. You can do this, that, and the third. You can be. I don't want to use those two as a. Let's just say you can be a token Negro, or you can be, a person who's a conservative, like say Rush Limbaugh is known for that, right? But and it's the silent majority thing, So you can get rewarded by being part of the silent majority, by people are going to look out for you. You lose your job, somebody's going to find out who you are. They're going to rehire. They're going to get you hired somewhere. You wind up doing something racist, and people, all you need is a GoFundMe or a GoFundMe type of page, and guess what? You're going to get, depending on how big the story is, you're going to get donations. You can get 6 figures in support just by the fact that you did something racist, and in this country, and people are like, oh, well, how do you know? That's not what's in somebody's hearts, blah blah blah. Well, that person probably did this when they were in the 3rd grade. They deserved it. You know what? We're not going to let them go out like that. We're going to support them. So you get rewarded for these type of things. People want to, people don't want to take into consideration that, why do you think, using George Floyd and Breonna Taylor as an example, why do you think it's taking so long for them to have a trial? It ain't just because of the pandemic. This is normal procedure. We want to, we want to get all the let all of the quote unquote energy dissipate, right? And then we could just boom. It was in the line of duty. Come on, man. Prometheus was popping, fam. So yeah, it is rewarding bad behavior. You get rewarded for this stuff. People don't want to admit it, but that's what it is. If you're, what, I'm not even going to use. What I was about to use was not just the political system, but the justice system. But you can use any other thing. You get what I'm saying? You could use anything in America. But I'm going to skip that part. The third thing about this is, dialogue about race won't change race because it's a stall tactic. If you're talking to people about race and about racism in America, and you just want to have a dialogue with them, when a person is racist like that, they'll have the conversation to you just to kick the can. Let me move the goalposts. Let me change the subject. Let me what about black on black crime this one? You know what I'm saying? Let me say, my ancestors did this and your ancestors did that, and blah blah blah, etc. It's a stall tactic. It's when somebody interjects. Well, if you did this, then it wouldn't be like that. If you did that, it wouldn't be like that. Well, why don't you try doing this? Because normally when we have these conversations, and you have these conversations with non-black people, it's always they want black people to do something en masse together to prove to them and their race and the world that we can do X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden that'll stop. Or see, if y'all do that, that'll stop racism. Now, we all know every little thing that comes out, we've already had a history of doing it, and it didn't work. So then it's like, well, we're a new generation of people. Believe it was popping, We're a new generation of people. It's a new era. It's a new day. It's new. If if that was how they acted, but we don't act like that. We're different. Okay, so we need to start from square one with you, right? Which ironically adds to the stall tactic, because if you know it's a new day and you know people back in the day was acting a certain way when we did a certain thing, you should already know what you're gonna have to come up with something completely different, right? Because it's not about proving if it'll work or not, or if we'll be on the bad end of racism. It's about saying, okay, give me the opportunity to do it. See, I won't do it. And it's like, whatever. GBS was popping, fam. You know, so it's really like a game after game after game after game. You know what I mean? Reggie was good. So now, people are like, well, if we talk about it, to who? And here's part of the star tactic. There is nobody to talk to in reality. Think about it. When people talk about race and racism in this country, the most of my people talk about systematic racism. There is nobody to talk to in these systems. There is nobody to talk to in your school system. There's nobody to talk to in the banking system or the financial system. There's nobody to talk to in the judicial system. There's nobody to talk to in the law enforcement system. There's nobody to talk to in the military system. There's nobody to talk to in the healthcare system. There's nobody to talk. Like, it's always, no, it's always, if you get in the system, you could change the system. How you gonna get in the system and change the system if there's nobody to talk to in the system? Because there are people already in the system who can't really talk to anybody in the system, which is irony. MC was popping, So this idea that if we talk about race, it'll change some things. Nah. So for me, it's a waste of time to have that conversation. Sometimes I can understand it being entertaining. I can understand it being a science experiment live or whatever, or a social experiment. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But that's part of the issue. Like the fourth thing, dialogue about race won't change racism, because racism is taught in the home and in school. Like, racism is taught by parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. You get what I'm saying? So, and like I said, school, your teachers, your assistant principals, your principals, your school security is taught in the school. The coaches in your school, if you play sports, just having a dialogue with somebody about race, you forget they're gonna go home, and they're gonna tell their kid, even if they agree with you, they're gonna tell their kid the opposite. They're gonna tell their kid, yeah, I agree with that, but this puts food on the table. This is how we live, because a lot of families, in a sense, use racism as a way to benefit their next generation. So you're teaching it to your children, to teach to their children. You get what I'm saying? Like, take for instance, in the Iowa, using former President Barack Obama. He already said that he was raised by his grandparents, and they were racist. And ironically, though he's black, whether people like to admit it or not, whether you want to say consciously or subconsciously, talk down to black men in particular, but black people in general. What's up, David? So it's like, okay, this stuff is taught in the home. So, and why I use the former president is because think about it. Even a former president of the United States, his own grandparents who raised him had an issue with his race. Now, if he got teased by some black kids, that would probably wind up, quote unquote, being more of an issue than them being racist towards him as a kid, because they took care of him. So you could kind of say, yeah, they took care of him, but they saw black people a certain way. Well, if they saw black people a certain way, they saw him a certain way. And ironically, his dad wasn't a black American; he was an African. So this is how, like I said, it's taught in the home. Champ, what's popping? Nice, what's going on? So it's taught in the home. In a dialogue, about race won't change racism. Also in the school, because it's also in the school. Everybody who's black has been in a situation when they've been in school and their teachers have a bias to the kids who are not black. Sometimes the teachers are of all different ethnicities or different races, and or they're black, but they have a bias towards kids. It's like school itself has a caste system. The American educational system itself has a caste system. Now, when people want to say, okay, well, who's the smartest in the school? Well, here's the thing. Some schools are harder than others, and some teachers give some students a harder time than other students. So if you want to talk about race, how you gonna talk to the teachers? How many teachers you gonna talk about? You think they're gonna change the way they're teaching? JL, what's popping? What's up, Senator? You really think these teachers are gonna change the way that they teach? I mean, pretty much every black person I've known has seen it. Black kids raise their hand and ask a question. Nah, maybe not. If it's a smart black kid, he's considered annoying and a nuisance, or she's considered an annoying and a nuisance, depending on the school. More so the guys than the girls, because most teachers are female, so it's a different dynamic with them. But they've seen it too. So when you're treated differently, when you're reading out of the same books, getting the same education because of your race, this goes with you everywhere you go. So now it translates, like I said before, to the principals and assistant principals, or the assistant principals and the principals, because who winds up getting suspended more? It's a racial component to that. Two people could do the same thing. You remember, the black, I think he was a gym teacher or one of the security faculty, when the Asian kid was about to shoot up the school with the shotgun, and a dude came there and he took the gun from him and he hugged him and he basically stopped the school shooting. Now, the irony of that was, I think the year prior to that, it was a white cop at a school. Roger, thanks, fam. It was a white cop at a school and he ran away, and let the school get shot up. Now, why I'm talking about the dialogue, and thank you, Roger. And why I'm talking about the dialogue of it is because people don't take into consideration that, and I've been talking about this with school shootings since they first started happening. The only reason school shootings kept happening is because they were from non-black kids. See, we can't talk about race and racism and have a dialogue in a school, because guess what? A non-black kid walking around with a trench coat or an assault rifle or a shotgun, or handguns on them, or dressed like they going, to a shooting range or some military event, it doesn't raise an eyebrow with the principal, the assistant principal, the teachers, the school security, the school cop. It doesn't affect them, because even in school, racism is taught. Oh, they're just going through it's just a different day. Same thing that happens with how can I say this? With drugs in schools and drug use in schools. You know, everybody has an issue with black kids smoking weed in high school and in college, but nobody has an issue with non-black people smoking weed and snorting cocaine and popping pills in high school and college, because racism is taught in the schools. Oh, it's not a big deal. Like I had this, I remember telling y'all this story on I don't know how long ago. I was in high school, playing, high school football team or whatever. So a few of our teammates, we went to the University of Michigan. They used to throw this. They had a summer camp. So, kind of competition type of thing. Anybody who's played sports, you know what I'm talking about when the universities have the summer camps and stuff like that. How you doing, Tiff? Our roommates, me and one of my teammates, we wound up roommating with two Amish kids. The Amish kids got caught with weed in Ann Arbor, right? By the cops. Cops took the weed from them, sent them back up to the room. It was just a nice little story that they told. Me and my homeboy, who, with teammates, was looking at them like, listen, because it was, for them, it was a normal experience. And we're like, yeah, well, that's y'all experience, because if that was us, we'd definitely be in jail right now. Definitely. No question about it. And the irony of this is, using that as an example about, racism being taught in school, the week after the camp, if I'm not mistaken, because this was in the 90s, the week after the camp, they had like a KKK rally in Ann Arbor. Because from my understanding, it was one of like KKK, neo-Nazi, white nationalists. It was like where they would have a parade at in Ann Arbor over the summer, like before school starts. So that's the irony of that. You know what I'm saying? That's the irony of that. Yeah, I feel that cynical. I've seen it too many times. You know, I think one of the funniest stories I was on a date with a homegirl, with a friend of mine back in the day, and we was at a kind of mixed club, but when you go to those mixed clubs and they have country night, or white night, or a salsa night, Hispanic night, and black night. And on Saturdays, depending on the weekend, they have a fight night and everybody show up. So I think this was either the black night or the fight night. But the girl came up, she was talking, to my homegirl or whatever, and she's like, I like you guys. And then she looked at her, you want to go snort some blow? And my homegirl looked at me like, what the heck just happened? It was hilarious for me, because I know she was hunting for black for the BBC. But let me move on to the fifth part of this. Dialogue about race won't change racism, especially in America, because it puts doubt into the superiority thing. See, when people talk about racism, one of the things that goes on with racism, your mind was having, is this idea of superiority. And when you have a conversation about racism, it kind of puts a monkey wrench in that superior feeling and that superior ideology. We're different people. We come from a different culture. We do things differently. Kind of like recently that I think he's a senator was saying that slavery was a necessary evil. Now, and then somebody's like, okay, well, since it's necessary evil, then that means we shouldn't have a problem with this reparations talk. And then they're like, oh my goodness, which I'm gonna get to that mindset later. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, how much people do that thing? NC worker was popping. So we have this issue in America where if we talk about race, then that means maybe you're not as superior, because a lot of the achievements that Black Americans have had in America are in spite of white ideology. blacks aren't smart enough, blacks aren't capable enough, blacks can't do this, blacks are scared under pressure, black is, black, how can I say it? Blacks don't understand math, blacks don't understand science, blacks don't, and then all of these things that were really, to me, a phobia / fear ideology that just stalled out, for people being able to be good or great in America. Now people go, oh, well, these guys are great in spite of. Like, taking an instance, and I brought this up, shout out to Harvey Superboy for saying this back in the day. If anybody remembers that military picture of, I want to say that's Iwo Jima, when they have the soldiers hoisting up the flag and they got it, it's a bronze statue now. Well, the irony about that is it's supposed to be this patriotic thing. Now you can see the soldiers hoisting up this flag. Well, the truth behind the story was those are actually black soldiers at the time who did that, and they moved them out of the picture and put white soldiers there to take the picture. You know what I'm saying? Don't be surprised. The same thing is going to happen, with the Tuskegee Airmen. You got to change the narrative. The same thing that happened with the school system trying to change the narrative of slavery. We got to change the narrative, Yeah, I get that, but I'm gonna get to that also, because it's a two-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword on that. Where, and I might just add that into this now, where, like, because the sixth part about this is actually, hard work is in question, because you could say, David, thanks, fam. Yeah, I got tired of people doing that too, man. Thank you, fam. Yeah. Get that discussion popping in the chat. Y'all got it. But, dialogue about race, it won't change racism because hard work is in question. And what I mean by that, like, Belizean was put on black men built America. Well, see, here's a problem. That is a true statement, but people in America they look at it, that was a long time ago. And the irony about saying that was a long time ago was also, people said, we're immigrants, we came here, we worked hard, we did it, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Well, it puts your hard work in question even when people came to this country after slavery as immigrants, they used racism as a way to get jobs. When black people had companies, people used racism to fold those companies. When black people invented things, people used racism to steal those inventions, and not only just the invention, but steal the profits from them. So now all of this hard work, that say, I didn't own any slaves, my family didn't own any slaves, we didn't participate in slavery, we're second, third generation Americans, blah, blah, blah. That might be good for you, but how did you get your job? Bring your sick, bring your poor, bring your blah, blah, blah. There was also a dog whistle. Bring your white butt over here because there's too many black people. We need to change the population because we don't want to have this many black people. We killed the Indians, but we can't kill these blacks like that. So come over here because we can't outproduce them per se. So when I say hard work, it brings all this stuff into question because people don't think about it like when a Haitian found Chicago, founded the city, quote unquote. All this stuff was Native American stuff already, so I'm not even going to go there. But quote unquote America, a Haitian founded, right? Remember this God dog it. When people think about Thomas Edison, he ain't really, he didn't make the light bulb light, you know what I'm saying? But that was a black man. Black men invented potato chips in this country. Black men had cars and car companies in this country. Black men created cities in this country. What do you think? People seem to forget that the capital of this country, which is Washington, D.C., was laid out by Benjamin Banneker. What does that tell you? The White House was built by black men who were enslaved. What does that tell you? And the White House is still standing. And why I'm saying what I'm saying is because when people think about hard work being in question, everything that black men built in this country, from slavery on up, even into construction, still stands to this day. It's still all these things. The building still stands, quote unquote. Even the plantation still stands. Even the old houses still stand. Certain neighborhoods and certain cities were really built by black people. The architecture is so good. I wonder why. You never asked that question. The woodwork is so good. I wonder why. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't carbon, it was tungsten. But I feel you on that. So, and I'm just using small examples, but people don't want to hear this type of stuff. Because it'll change, dialogue about race won't change racism. Because look at, because racism exists for two reasons: money and social status. Because I got you on that. What's up, Charles? Money and social status. Because it's the same thing with, people hate Asians, right? And because Asia took over Silicon Valley. But I'm going to use a different example. If anybody, I've heard about Utah, the state, Salt Lake City, Utah. There is really not racism towards black people in Utah because really ain't no black people in Utah. But guess what the problem is? Polynesians, Samoans. They treat them like trash, from my understanding. So what can Samoans do to get treated better in Utah and Salt Lake City? Like, what can they do? Because this is what I mean about the dialogue won't work, because even when black people aren't in areas, the racism still exists in these areas and other people get it. I'm sure it's like that in Arizona or New Mexico. I'm pretty sure that Hispanics get treated like trash. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure of it. Man, Charles, I know YouTube not sending notification. That's what it is. I ain't gonna trip, fam. Right, you're not gonna be told about Harlem Hellfighters or the Buffalo Soldiers. It's not part of the it's not part of American culture per se, because this is the thing about why the dialogue doesn't work. Because like even when I was talking about the schools earlier, the schools only teach American history in a sense of white people did all these things. So white people did all these things and everybody came here to benefit off of white people's greatness. That's just pretty much how American school system is taught. That's why American history is so important, because it's part of the, thing. Using that as an example, here was the irony, because I talked about Barack Obama earlier. What I mean about hard work. Colin Kaepernick, original mother, his biological mother gave him away pretty much because he was black. That woman didn't say nothing about Colin Kaepernick until they was in the Super Bowl. I'm so proud of my son, Colin, blah, blah, blah. And ain't nobody heard about his mama until Colin Kaepernick was in the Super Bowl. People side-eyed her because she's a white lady. She got pregnant by a black guy, had a kid, got rid of the kid, whatever. So think about that. He's younger than me, so that still exists. You get what I'm saying? But when he took a knee, that same mama that gave him away was like, what are you doing? Ain't that about that? Ain't that about a bit? So this is where we at. Oh man, go ahead, keep screenshotting, fam. We got a million of them. But the hard work of America is in question. So I would say what is it number the number 7 thing about this is I don't dialogue about race won't change racism because there's no common ground. See, when you have a dialogue with somebody, you're trying to come to a common ground. When it comes to racism, there is none. There is none. This becomes a problem. What? What's up, Rico? Uh, how are you white and your father is not? I don't understand that. Okay, I don't get that, fam. You white, but your father not white? Was you adopted or something? But yeah, I get you. But there's no common ground because since this is about because racism in America, like I said, is about capitalism. So racism, puts money in people's pockets and it takes money out of other people's pockets. So what's going to happen is, you know, if there becomes a common ground, that means it'll be a financial shift, and people really don't want that. Now, the funny thing about that, to me, the underlying issue is people use the Bible as a quote or whatever, but if I'm not mistaken, the actual quote is, "The love of money is the root of all evil." The love of money is the root of all evil. So when you love money so much that you're willing to sabotage other people because they look different from so you can put more money in your pocket. This is the no common ground space where, because people use racism like that's what you're supposed to do. Like the irony of racism and talking about it is it comes off that white people assume that everybody who's not white will act like white people if they were in the same position as white people. Like if Native Americans, if us blacks, if Hispanics, if Hispanics, if Asians and Arabs, well, Arabs would get into slavery, so they would be considered part of the same on that ideology. But it's one of those things where, yeah, well, if you blacks had the opportunity to enslave us for 200-300 years and do all that, you would do it to us too. No. If the Mexicans and the Central and South Americans could just, put us in ships and ride us all the way to Rio and just break us with backbreaking labor for years to build up their country, they would do it too. No. Because the difference is all the other groups built up their societies without racism. You got people forget Africans was building up Africa without racism. That whole continent, stuff was getting built, and racism wasn't an issue. They didn't need to import other people from other areas. Asia was the same way. You know what I'm saying? Come on, America was the same way. They did what they was doing without needing to import people. Is the love of yourself the root of all evil also? You talking about no that the love of self is not narcissism. It becomes evil. That's that yeah the narcissist, being a narcissist, is one of the quotes is talking about the devil saying I. When a person says I, when it's self-aggrandizement or something like that, but when you become, so built on self, it becomes delusion. But that's part of the issue. Yeah, I know there were slaves in Central America. I get all that. What's up, Memphis? About to stop Jamestown. The thing about that is, we live in a society where people, and I've talked about this prior. If you look at America as a country, America was a country built for white people by everybody else. And what I mean by that is this: so if we even tried to separate, I could guarantee you a war would ensue, because people assume for some odd reason that if we all separate racially, people will go running back to white people because people are dependent on them, and that's not the case, because every group, racial group or ethnic group, has enough knowledge and enough knowledgeable people who actually run things in American society to be able to help keep the society sustained on its own without other people. What's going on, Faith? So this becomes a problem, because, like I was saying about the country being built, you could say it was the Native Americans' country. Didn't want to share that. So they killed the vast majority of them. Killed them, or to me, they waged war on them, killed them. So now it's stolen the land, right? Black people, we come into play because they tried to enslave the Indians and they couldn't work, and it was black people already here, anyways. But so now you go into Africa and you get people there, and you kind of say, okay, it's the same thing, which I'm gonna get into the other part of this in a minute. So we come over here, the men are here, like, I want to say slavery is like 200 and some odd years. The men are here like a good 150 years, I want to say 150, 180 years without black women even coming. So that part of slavery is that. So these guys are building up the country. Country gets built, right? They bring the women in, then it's a whole nother issue because of the rape and all that other stuff. The country gets built, then the population gets bigger. Now, when it's built, slavery is over, Reconstruction, Jim Crow. Now the infrastructure of the country goes into locomotives. So guess what? They say the Chinese built the railroads, but it's really the Chinese and black people. So these two races built the railroads. One of the most important, you can say, now blacks didn't invent the train or whatever. A lot of stuff we never invented. We didn't invent in America in the beginning stages because we were all slaves and people took credit for our inventions anyway. Right, I get it, Faith. So that's a whole nother thing. So now that the railroads are built, now the country's connected. Chain gangs working on roads and all that. Now the country's connected. Now what happens next? You bring in the quote unquote immigrants. So now all the white people here, they don't do the work. They never did the work. So now they got all the money for this. Now you bring the quote unquote immigrants. So some of these immigrants are white people technically. Like the Irish and the Italian weren't considered white until like 1930, 1940, something like that. So they weren't considered white while they was doing all the construction work and the law enforcement and all that other stuff. It took them in the early to 1900s for them to say, okay, you white too. So now they did the construction and this, that, and the third. They added them, and organized crime came. That's a whole nother story because of not getting a fair shake in this country per se. So now that's passed. And if you look at that Netflix thing about the fear in the city, like New York, you see the mobsters and all that, how those old men have been getting away with shenanigans for years. But couple that with after that's over with, Mexicans were already here. So you got to remember when the civil rights movement was going on, Mexicans will call themselves Chicanos. They sat out of the civil rights movement, but they were still in agriculture. So now, when black women would have, black men was in agriculture, black women was in the households. So now fast forward from the 60s to 2020, Hispanics are in agriculture, all the things that black people was doing from the 60s to about the 80s and 90s, as far as all the jobs that brothers was having, these are all jobs that Hispanics have now, and a lot of people consider service jobs, right? No hate, no shade. But what ended up happening is now they say Mexicans, are building the country. So this whole time, white people haven't built this country. The whole time. So it was built, it was built for them, but by everybody else. Now, getting back to why I said the dialogue don't work, one of the reasons will be number 8 is I've noticed too many white people who have this ideology that they believe that, America is like the spoils of war. We won the war. This was a war. See, the problem with this, the war thing, Americans that are Caucasian won a war against white people. America fought Britain. Maybe France, maybe Spain. But when it comes to these other races, it wasn't a war. Native white people befriended Native Americans and then killed them. That's not a war. That's something that's a sneak attack. That's that ain't a war. You didn't win. You don't win a war like, how you doing, my friend? Oh man, you're gonna teach me how to live? I live here, great. Stab him out. That's not war. You didn't win a war like that. You just, you were scared of somebody, so you basically sucker punched a whole race of people. What's up, Randall? Same thing with slavery. That's supposed to be a war. That's not a war. Because these people, like, you got, when you go to another country and you befriend people in that country, and then they go get people who are slaves from different places, and then they give them to you. You friends with the same people that you enslaved. That's not a war. Because the other people, in the beginning, the other people didn't even know what was going on. So then even with the Europe thing, when you mess around and you as a country, or I don't even know how Europe is a continent. It always cracked me up. But when you band together as a group or a continent and you say, oh, we're going to all go here and do this, that, and this, that, to these other people, and this is how we're going to plan it out. That's not a war. That's not war. Like, these people don't even know what you're doing. They didn't even know you. You get what I'm saying? Same thing. The same thing happened in the Caribbean islands. I would say Central and even South America. But I think the only people who wound up catching on was the Brazilians in the beginning, because if I'm not mistaken, they tried to go to Brazil with that and they got killed quick. And the reason why Brazil speaks Portuguese, if I'm not mistaken, is because the Portugal went to Brazil was like, okay, we're gonna be y'all friends. We're gonna bring y'all gifts. We ain't gonna try to fight y'all. We're gonna bring y'all gifts. So even how Brazil wound up getting turned into Portuguese was they befriended them because everybody else who tried to go there, on that, we just gonna take over tip. They got their butt handed to them. So they befriended them and then flipped the script on them later. So it's not war. It's not, that wasn't war. The most simple sense of war is if you like when you and a person say we've been in a fight. When that becomes agreement, that's it. But if you say, oh man, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna drink some beers with you, gonna talk this, we cool. And when he get drunk, you crack him upside the head with a bottle. You didn't win a fight. I'll wage war. I won. No. So you can't. So the dialogue is hard to talk about race because I've heard people who actually, we won the war. The Confederate and the Union, we fought for you. No, you didn't. This idea that, people forget how many slave revolts happened in this country. People don't even want to talk about it in this country. How many black men wound up killing a bunch of people. The irony of it is, if you look at the birth of a nation that was made a few years back by Nate Parker. There was a scene in there where he was talking when the lady was like, "Man, I'm scared because at any moment, you know, they could just come in this house and gut us." And these were the same type of scenes. If people look at all the movies that depict slavery, there's a certain part where those people are very nervous because they don't know when and if they're going to get a quote unquote rebellion or uprising. They know it's coming. So that's not a war. When people say, okay, well, why didn't you fight back in slavery? Here's the irony. If you look at the modern day prison, that's a plantation. If you look at the modern day, this is exactly how everybody kind of feel. Well, how come they didn't win? It's the same thing. You get a group of people who are armed with guns. You get a larger group of people who are unarmed, and you isolate people, kill people, and shoot people, and make examples of people, and keep enough distance between you and those people, and so that if they really wanted to bum rush you, you could still save your artillery and fight back. It's the same thing. It wasn't a sense of, oh man, if they could just get some knives and get some guns, it ain't that easy. It ain't that easy. Now, one of the other things about this that I would say is number 9 is hypocritical logic. And some people don't understand what hypocritical logic is about. If y'all have seen the what's up, brother Rob? I didn't say what's up to you. My bad. If y'all have ever seen the Zimbabwean news about Zimbabwe paying the white people there $3.5 billion in reparations because they taking the land from them. Now the irony of it is white people understand reparations now. You owe me money because you stealing my land that I stole from you. No. So that would mean if you take these reparations, and this is the thing about it. I don't think the flip side of this is if Zimbabwe pays that, what's up? What's up, Savage? If Zimbabwe pays that, that's going to cause a real issue for Europe. Because if Zimbabwe pays that, then people are going to look at Europe like, yo, that means y'all, if the Africans can pay the white people for stolen stuff, you can pay all these other people for stolen stuff. It's going to make America look a certain way. Now, truth be told, Africa shouldn't pay them people nothing because you're paying them for something that they stole. That's just you don't pay a thief for from what they stole from you. You don't, if somebody steals your car, you don't pay them for the car. It's just not how it goes. But that's the hypocritical logic that these people feel like they're owed for something. What's up, George? So this becomes a problem. The hypocritical logic, the idea that that why the dialogue doesn't work is because I've heard too many people, even going back to the war comment, like, what you gonna do about it? If you had upset, you should take this country by force. And I chuckle when I hear because predominantly white men say that, and I don't think white men understand why most people who are not white laugh at them when they say that, because these are the same type of dudes who face to face, they punk out. They're face to face, they're gonna get on their phone, they're gonna call the White House, they're gonna call for God, they're gonna call for the angels, they're gonna call up Satan, they go, look, I need help, it's wrong. So you mean to tell me you said you want beef, and if you was in my position, you want beef, but if I come at you, now you crying to the world. Now you're a victim. Now it's terrorism. Now it's reverse racism. But when you doing it, it's just, normal American culture. It's normal American culture. Yeah, backfired economics. I feel that. This is where we at. So now we're in these situations where, you got people who are hypocritical in their idea and their logic. And then people are looking at it now, because I've seen it so often where you see too much of this stuff with this mask stuff, where the mask is stopping me from my freedom. You're fighting over a mask. You fight like what people are standing for in this country over the last 5 to 10 years makes no sense. You're fighting because you don't want to wear a mask in a pandemic. You're fighting because black people died and said their lives matter, and you don't like that. But ironically, so all these other things matter. Why am I'm about to go there and say this. So what I mean by hypocritical logic, all lives matter. While all lives matter was going on, you had the anti-black racism, but you also had the immigration thing with the Hispanics. So exactly, if all of those, did those immigrants who were legal and illegal, did their lives matter? No, not really. Did them breaking up their families matter? No, not really. See, at the same time, you had people still on that Muslims are terrorists kick. Do Muslims does Al Qaeda lives matter? Does ISIS lives matter? Since all lives matter, did they matter? See, this is the hypocritical ideology. So now everybody matters. Who exactly is everybody though? Because you can't be, saying everybody matters and I don't matter at the same time, and then other people don't matter at the same time. Because part of the reason I did this is because I saw the black lady. She's a customs officer, but she used to be a cop. I saw what she was talking about. She said Black lives first, Black lives matter. Before her Blue Lives Matter, because she was a cop, but she's a customs agent, and she got pulled over on that funny BS, blah blah blah. And it got to her. And one of the reasons it got to her because she got a short haircut, and she think, for one, they thought she was a man, so they was going to treat her bad, like a black man in a sense, because of her hairstyle. They didn't see her. But then when they pulled up on her, she had a uniform on or either in the car, and they saw that, and they still, want to get fly with her. And she knew it was all a racial issue. So the logic is, if blue lives matter, blue lives don't even matter when you change the color. See, if you, I hate to say this, but I don't. If you're black, your blue life don't matter to your own blue folks. If you got no badge on, your blue life don't matter. If you got a badge on, your blue life don't matter. When I brought up the thing about the LAPD group, the executioners, they're blue, remember? They have a race issue. Most police departments have a race issue. So why this won't work is because of the hypocritical logic. We're all in this country together. If we're all in this country together, why are you upset when somebody has an issue going on about them specifically? Because everybody in America has an issue in America that's different because they're of a different race. Everybody has a different issue. Everybody get treated unfairly at some point. But don't act like this isn't a caste system racially and financially. So we want to play this game where, this logic, when this happens to a white person, see this happens to, like, white people get shot by the cops too. Have you seen the video of the white people who get shot by the cops? They're running around the car with a knife in their hand chasing the cop. They're running around in the parking lot with a knife in their hand, put in the cop, and the cop's backing away. So that's the same as a guy sitting in the car? That's the same. That's the same as a guy like, please don't do this. That's the same. It's not the same. It's hypocritical logic. The same thing goes on with the financial system. Everybody in America has an equal opportunity. If you know good and well you say somebody is an affirmative action hire. If they're not white, then you know there is no equal opportunity. You already know that. If you know certain people, in management when you have other races have a different saying. Black people, we say glass ceiling. Asians say bamboo ceiling. It's the same thing. I'm pretty sure, Hispanics and what you call that, Muslims or Arabs have either the same saying or a similar saying. There is no ceiling, on white race. There isn't one. There isn't. Makes no sense. Right, equality means quota. And I ain't even mad at that. But even with the quota ain't even meet. If we 13% of the population, we can't be 13. Like, think about it. Racially in this country, you can't be your population. The racial inequality in this country far exceeds its population. So if we 13% of the population, what, Hispanics are like 16% now or something like that? Well, the whites are like 55, 60%. So then you got Asians and you got Muslims. Think about it. Nothing in this country, you got Native American, nothing in this country is square to race. When you think about race, financial or real estate, it's 90+% white. Finance, real estate, business, corporations, all that. All that. Even with the people who come to this country from other countries. Think about that. You got immigrants and people who come from other countries. They can't bring their corporations here. They can't. So any business that they try to set up is going to wind up getting swallowed into an American business. My bad, GBS. This is where we at. Oh, you own these people own 2% of America's wealth. These people own 1% of America's wealth. These people own, like, wait a damn minute. How are all these people so wealthy off of a stolen country? You want to explain that? And the last thing, but not least, is dialogue about race won't change racism, because who's going to accept the responsibility? Nobody. So you're talking to people who have no inclination to accept that responsibility. None. I know what happened in the past. I know what the advantages gave me, but that I wasn't back then. I'm just living in the now. So you ain't gonna do nothing about it. That's not my problem. Now the irony about this is these people at the same breath will actively make sure that the status quo of racism continues in one form or another. In one form or another. Because to be great in this country, look at all the great, how can I say this? Look at all the great white people in America. And look at all the great non-white people in America. And I guarantee you, you're going to find an abundance of mediocre people in the white greatness, and you're going to find an abundance of exceptional people who are non-white because of all the things that they had to do to get to a certain place. Now, there are some white people who are phenomenal, not going to take that away from them. But white America has an abundance of average, below average, mediocre people who are extraordinary circumstances. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. People don't think about that. And, using, like, let's use sport, let's use business or technology, sports, and entertainment for a reference. Robert Smith was in technology. He's a billionaire. Michael Jordan was in sports, billionaire. Byron Allen, business, entertainment. You know, I think he's on his way to be a billionaire. Or people want to use Jay-Z as a rapper, billionaire. Here's the issue with all of those guys. These are separate entities, separate industries. Who's the, who? Because if I'm not mistaken, Robert Smith was like integral in the cloud in itself. I forgot the brother Manny Lawson created the video game system, so that's for all of our entertainment. We already know about the cell phone and all that other stuff, right? Digital phone and all that other stuff. So the vast majority of the things we use now, I think a brother invented the computer processing chip, if I'm not mistaken. So the original one. So a lot of these things that go on, people go, wait, what? Oh man, what's up, Justin? Black Pill, what's popping? It's one of those interesting things where you don't, and I hate to use them as an example. Does anybody think that, say, Donald Trump, President Trump, or President Bush Jr., President Bush Sr., any other, look at all the senators and all the congressmen and women as exceptional people? Do you look at Joe Biden like he's an exceptional, I know why he's been in Congress, because he's a genius. Like, does anybody look at people like that? When you look at the mayors and the chiefs of police, you don't look at those people like that. People might look at Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. If these guys are innovative, these are guys who were innovators and did some things and a great businessman in a sense, but brought something to society. But we don't look at the bulk of like Jeff Bezos. People look at Jeff Bezos as a very intelligent man, but people forget. And I got to give Jeff Bezos credit, but for his business, because it's dope. But people forget that Amazon was initially about books, just moving books from coast to coast, because books on the East Coast were not on the West Coast, basically. So he was like creating as a go-between. Now, how often can somebody who's non-white have a business like that or business idea like that, and then all of a sudden it grows to its big conglomerate because it's such a great idea that you can, do the logistics of it? Think about that. Think about Nike. How people forget that aspect of it. People forget certain business aspects of it, and it's people are not going to accept the responsibility of saying, okay, I get racism put me in this position, but you want me to stop being in this position? Like, before I go, I was looking at Jane Elliott, and she did the blue eye, brown eye test. And part of the blue eye, brown eye test is blue eye people get treated like brown eye people, and they immediately do not like it. And part of the testing is where she says, why race is sometimes a mental illness or whatever, is because the brown-eyed people have this tendency in her test to start feeling superior because they get treated better than the blue-eyed people, which is, essentially what racism is, right? But what I noticed is, and maybe it's because I haven't looked at it enough, normally what I've seen is the brown-eyed people are not black people that feel superior the minute that somebody said they got brown eyes. It was normally white people going, we're better than you guys because of da. So it's the same group doing the same exact thing, just in a different eye color. So I might be wrong, but that's what I've seen. So, matter of fact, before I get out of Prometheus, let me know if I'm tripping about that. Because if you talking about the movie, I'm bugging, But this is what goes on with it. So I'm gonna get out of here on that note. Y'all have yourself a great day. One love, peace.